chairperson of our, to perhaps say a few words. You have the floor, sir.
Excellencies, colleagues from the press, I'm honored to be with you today for the luncheon of the our Action Committee Heads of States and Government. Please allow me to thank the our Head of States and the Government Action Committee for moving forward the agenda of shared responsibility and global solidarity. Again, our vision is to hasten the end of HIV, AIDS, TB, and malaria epidemics in Africa. Its mission is to lead advocacy and accountability efforts to accelerate the African response to HIV, AIDS, and malaria. The African Union recognizes health as an integral component of development and seeks to address it both from the point of view of improving the quality of the population and also for its critical contribution to the sustainable socio-economic development of Africa. Most countries have recognized the need to diversify and expand the source of funding for health generally and for HIV responses specifically in order to reduce their dependency on the few external funders. Countries are increasingly exploring the long-term financial sustainability of their responses and considering innovative financing options. To mention few, including for HIV/AIDS, there is a trust fund in Kenya, Zambia, which is following to Zimbabwe's example, and some countries are levying income on the non-mining firms in Botswana and mobile phone levy in Burkina Faso, Rwanda, Uganda, Gabon, and Kenya. And also there is air levies are charged by the government of Benin and Congo, Madagascar, Mali, Mauritius, and Niger. And the government of Cape Verde and Comoros are charging alcohol excise taxes. These are the mechanism in which countries are trying to make themselves free from, at least, to complement the external funding and to minimize the dependency syndrome. And at the same time, these best practices can be expanded to other countries. And also there is also a need to accelerate efforts towards harmonized regional approach of the regulation of medicine and to the manufacturing of pharmaceutical products as means to implementing pharmaceutical manufacturing plan for Africa business plan to enhance access to quality assured essential drugs and commodities. Member states have already seen a gradual increase in domestic resources committed to health between 2001 and 2011, with HIV/AIDS response funding providing a good example to this. So with this, I would like to say thank you.
Thank you very much for the representative of the Minister of Health. We removed earlier. I want to appreciate the presence of the Executive Director of the Global Fund, Mark Dube. We had your name tagged here, but we were told that you were in another important meeting, and we thought you were probably not going to be able to join us. But I'm sure the plate will find it, the nameplate will find its way back. At this point in time, let me also quickly invite the Executive Director of UNAIDS, Michel Sedide, who is our brother and leading, not just an advocate, the leading combatant for the fight against HIV and AIDS.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your nice word. But what I want just to start by saying is that this panel is showing clearly inclusiveness. It's showing our effort to work together and trying to mobilize energy from different corners. Global Fund, my brother Mark Debol, and the other side, Eric Goosby, my brother, for PEPFAR, and in between we have a government and the continent working together to really position our agenda. But let me just say a few words. It's very important to always go back to history. When we started with President Obasanjo, I was mentioning that quickly today, no one would have believed that AWA could become part of the institution of African Union. It was a group of presidents were meeting, trying to reflect on HIV, because HIV was a crisis. But as today meeting has been able to demonstrate, is not anymore about this hour. We are talking about a platform today for Africa just to be able to advocate, but also to mobilize and create accountability for global health. It's not even about only HIV. You will see many of other partners will join AWA, and I am happy to say that. But since 2001, when AWA was created, I can just say with confidence that Africa moved from sorrow to hope. Because when we were creating AWA, we were not even having 50,000 people on treatment in this continent. I said 50,000. Today we have more than 7 million people on treatment, which means that it is an increase of more than 800% during this period, which is just amazing. But it's not just about increasing coverage. People will tell you why coverage is fine, but tomorrow if a fund is not there, it's about also saving life. We have been able to reduce by almost 32% the number of people who were dying from HIV during this period. So it's a collective success. And it was very interesting to see how African Union and also NEPAD with AWA work together to come out with a G8 African Union accountability report. It's the first time we have an accountability report which has been managed in a very transparent and participatory manner. And this report reveals clearly that with a PEPFAR, a Global Fund, and G8, during the last 5 years, Africa received almost 60 billion. I said $60 billion for health. So it means that we need, this report is here, it means that AWA is a driving force to just not to make us reviewing our progress, but also to help mobilize resources. We heard today all the president talking about that the global fund should be fully replenished. And that is our aim, because if global fund manage to get all the resources which is needed, it will certainly help us to continue this global solidarity, which is important. But I want to end by saying, let us not leave this room believing that it is just about resources coming from outside of Africa. Africa is sharing responsibility like never before. I can tell you domestic spending on AIDS only in Africa has increased by over 150% during the last 5 years. 150% increase in domestic funding. And only country like South Africa has been able to increase their domestic funding on the same period for more than 500%. Today they are putting almost $1.9 billion, I said South Africa, which is the second, I said the second biggest national investment on AIDS in the world. The second biggest national investment on AIDS in the world. So let us continue to mobilize our energy to work on with a spirit of shared responsibility and global solidarity, like it has been already pushed by African Union, and let us make AWA a successful tool for accountability, advocacy, and also a mobilization of resources, internal mobilization and external mobilization. Thank you very much for your time.
I sincerely express appreciation to His Excellency Dr. Michel Sidibe, Executive Director of UNOSIDA. Thank you very much for your continued support and the fight against until we achieve the 3 zeros.
Yeah.
There will be no retreat and no surrender. At this point in time, let me also invite His Excellency, Ambassador Eric Goosby. We all know how PEPFAR has affected us very well on the continent. So I have the honor of giving you the floor, sir. Excellency, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to have an opportunity to talk with you and most assuredly to answer some of your questions that will come up. Well, as Michelle has said, you know, we're looking at a disease that has infected 34 million people on the planet. 24 million of these are in sub-Saharan Africa, confined to really a very small number of countries where it's concentrated. Also, as Michelle said, we went from 50,000 people in 2002 on antiretroviral therapy to now over 7 million. And that is an accomplishment that the United States is proud to have been a participant in joining those countries that had been responding to HIV, the morbidity and the mortality incurred for 30 plus years with the development of 2 efforts. The first, the Global Fund for HIV, TB, and malaria. The United States is proud to contribute 1/3 of the resources toward that effort. And the second, the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, PEPFAR, which is in 36 countries in a large way, all of the heavily impacted countries in sub-Saharan Africa, and continues to push its numbers to support the initiation of antiretroviral therapy, prevention of mother-to-child transmission, and the continued support of orphans and vulnerable children. We are applauding the Africa effort to promote an understanding of the need for African states to forge a deeper partnership in fighting the AIDS epidemic. The AIDS Watch for Africa, AWA, has been a wonderful example of the African Union taking ownership of its own metrics so it understands the disease, where it is, and also begins to define explicitly how the disease and resources need to be aligned. In countries hard hit by AIDS, there are 3 essential funding sources. The countries essentially the most important. As Michelle also said, they now are achieving more than 50% of that effort. Then Global Fund for HIV, TB, and malaria, and finally the PEPFAR program. For our part, the United States, President Obama, Secretary Kerry, will continue to stand by Africa as we together pursue the goal of an AIDS-free generation. The best way to sustain political support for defeating this epidemic here in the United States centers on showcasing the willingness of partner countries to assume greater ownership of and feasibility of financial efforts toward the HIV/AIDS response. Our ability to convince our Congress that they should invest in the people of Africa and try to drop morbidity and mortality is best realized when I can go back to congressional inquiries and say that the leadership in Africa is also investing in their people. Finally, I want to say that the importance of the Global Fund's 5th replenishment effort is on the horizon. It is critical that African leadership speak to the importance of the Global Fund in mounting and augmenting their ability to effectively respond to the 3 diseases, HIV, TB, and malaria. And it is with great anticipation of a fruitful replenishment that the United States again offers strong support to the Global Fund and to the countries in partnership to end this epidemic. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and I'm sure Dr. McDowell will be more than happy to hear the continued commitment and, from the United States. We are also all looking forward to all the assistance and advocacy for Global Fund to be able to meet the targets for replenishment. So I have the honor of giving the floor to the Executive Director of the Global Fund. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, and I won't take long. I'm sorry I was late. This is a very historic weekend. It's the 50th anniversary of the African Union, which is a remarkable event. It's also a historic moment because for the first time in history, the leaders gathered here have the opportunity to completely control HIV, tuberculosis, and malaria. In part, that's because of the massive investment that's been made and the leadership of the countries themselves, Ethiopia being a very good example, but throughout the African Union, so it's a pleasure to have the Commissioner here. It's also because of partnerships like that with UNAIDS and Michel Sidibé, my brother, and his leadership, and also the entire UN family, and bilateral support, financial and technical. But the stars have aligned with advances in science and the investments of the last 10 years for the first time, something we could not have said 2 years ago, for the first time we can see how to end HIV, tuberculosis, and malaria as public health threats. Not to eradicate them yet. We hope to have that science soon, but we have the ability now to completely end them as public health threats. That will work and is achievable only if we are partnered together in that common cause. And as we just heard from the African heads of state, who have been out front leading, they are ready for this challenge. They are united in this challenge, and it is through a partnership, including through increased domestic financing, that we will achieve that goal. But the bottom line is, in the end, all of the success to date and all of the success that will come, including ending these epidemics in Africa, will be because of Africans. It will be because of the governments. It will be because of the heads of state. It will be because of the local leaders, the tribal leaders, and most importantly, the people on the ground caring for each other and serving each other. And the Development Army here in Ethiopia is a wonderful example of what can happen when communities come together to fight epidemics. And that is how this will end, by all of us supporting, all of us serving African leaders and the people of Africa to completely control these infections. Thank you.
Thank you very much, the Executive Director of the Global Fund. Now, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the floor is open to the panelists for your questions. And I'm sure because there is interpretation, you can ask your question in any language, either in English or French. Yes, the first shot. Oui, c'est de la Tunisie, hein? Bon, vous avez la parole.
African head of states committed themselves to put at least 15% of the budget into health and into public health. Do you think that this is something that Africa can achieve really quickly? And did you feel from the head of state a real commitment? And how big is the place of the African Union in influencing this process? I know it's too many questions, but they all flow in the same direction. Thank you.
Can we have another question so that yes, you have the floor, sir.
My name is Eben Tømt. I come from the NORAD magazine in Norway. I was really inspired to hear saying that we could eradicate these diseases as a public health threat. So I also want to ask you, what do you see as the greatest factor that might make this not happen? Thank you.
One more question, then we go for another round. Yeah. You intend to ask? All right. So.
Okay. Well,
all right. Yes, go ahead, sir.
The question about 15%. I think that to put a marker down as to the amount of budget that a country can invest in their own people toward their health needs was an important act of leadership. The ability for countries to achieve that is each country's own deliberation. In some countries, it will be difficult for them to achieve it. And it underlines the fact that no one single country can effectively respond to HIV, TB, and malaria. It truly is these diseases are embedded and indicative of and have saturated medical delivery systems all over the globe. And we need to help each other globally acknowledge the shared responsibility that we hold for us to effectively find the resources to eradicate these diseases. As Mark alluded to, the science is clear. We now know how to identify the virus, understand how it moves through the population, and with appropriate responses, we can get in front of that movement by targeting those high-risk areas, those high-risk groups that have higher rates of transmission, and put our prevention efforts in front of that, allowing equal access across all types of risk behaviors to minimize the spread of that virus through the population. But it will only be achieved through a shared responsibility.
Commissioner, you would like to have something about the 15% to the question from the Tunisian,
yes,
the colleague from Tunisian press.
Yes. Thank you very much for that. You know, there are some positive things about the 15%, even if it hasn't happened. You know, and this all, if you remember, this all started, you know, Abuja 2001, in fact, was when it started. That's when AWA itself was born. Now, at that time, you just had the statistics that we had, you know. Virtually nothing really was done in terms of fighting the AIDS pandemic. You know, but since that time, although I actually regret to say about 7 or 8 African countries, I think, have reached have achieved the 15%. But I would like you to look at it in another way. You had the statistics. The spending by African countries has risen to something like over 100%. For me, that gives me hope. You know, the figure 15% may not be that important now. You know, the commitment that's going, and the fact that our is revived now again, you know, and it's in action, as you can see from what's going on. I'm sure we'll sit here next year and probably tell you, maybe not the 15%, but they probably will go up to 10% or something. We have hope, you know, so I think there is hope. We'll make it eventually.
On that question, oops, go ahead.
I want just to add to that one also. The president of Nigeria today called on all the other presidents to come in Abuja for Abuja plus 12. And that is a great opportunity for us with African Union, UNAIDS, and others to review this commitment, to really come out with a scorecard which can show what was not really achieved, what was achieved, and why, and where we want to go. And we think Abuja plus 12 could be an opportunity to also start the debate on how to finance development and global health beyond ODA. And that is important. It is something we need to start.
If I could just respond to the question from our colleague from Norway, we could list 50 things that could get in the way of completely controlling HIV, TB, and malaria. Supply chain, human resources, national logistics systems, monitoring and evaluation systems. To be honest, those are all the same things people said 12 years ago when they said we couldn't do antiretroviral therapy in Africa and we couldn't do a reduction in HIV infection. The real issue is vision. Are we going to stay stuck in the vision of slow progress, stuck in the vision of trying to achieve sub-objectives, which are important objectives, numbers of people in treatment, numbers of new infected, or are we going to say, how do we end these epidemics, and how do we strategically do that? And that vision, which we collectively share, and the heads of state collectively share, if we have that vision, we will overcome all of those problems, just like we overcame all of the problems for the last 12 years, when people said there was no way you could get 100,000 people into treatment in Africa, let alone 7 million. So we have those challenges, but we'll overcome them. And we're very excited about the commitment of the African leaders to increasing their financing. As Michelle said, we're seeing, and the Commissioner said, and Eric said, we're seeing increases. And we're very excited that for the first time, an African head of state will be one of the co-chairs of our replenishment. You heard the African leaders talk about the importance of Africa stepping up and being champions for, but also increasing their own contributions. And we'll also have a BRIC co-chair for the first time. So it's not just about the traditional donors, it's not just about the G8, it is truly shared responsibility, collective action, and that plus vision will get us to the objective.
I want to add to that one that the countries already adopted that vision. The vision of zero new infection, zero discrimination, and zero death. That is the vision of social justice, and that is a vision of a better redistribution of opportunity, but is also a vision to be able to apply science. When science is there, in Norway people are not dying anymore from AIDS. That's what I call ending AIDS. I'm not saying ending HIV. In Norway, people are not dying. Babies are not born anymore with HIV. It's 0, 0. So we can get this 0, 0 in the rest of the world. And that's why this shared responsibility again and global solidarity is important.
Yeah, I just want to complement with what my colleague said. The issue of achieving 15% is a function of the country's development internally, and it is the hope that each country has. And when the country is in a progress of continuous development and increasing investments and these things inside, then they are politically committed, and if there is a sense of ownership, and with this type of institutions, the countries will push toward that. And if we specifically, if I want to speak about Ethiopia, it's not uniform, but regions. There are regions who are which are invested 15% from their regional budgets. So we are heading toward that, and there is a hope. And the issue is the solidarity, as you have said. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. Yes, we still have time. A few more minutes to take another round of questions. So I need gender balance here. Are the women not asking questions? All right, I'll start with you.
Goosby. I got two questions. One is for Ambassador Goosby. Ambassador Goosby, you have been to Angola a couple of times. In your point of view, what is... I'm sorry. I'm Phil Nello. I'm an Angolan journalist from the Angolan National Radio. And my question to you actually has got to do with the fact that Angola has been struggling in order to fight off HIV/AIDS. And because of the war, Angola has a very low penetration of HIV/AIDS. In your point of view, what's the assessment you can provide to us, as you have been to Angola a couple of times? And then the other question would be for the gentleman at the end. Excuse me? Global Fund, exactly. There is a lot of money being put into this fight throughout the continent of Africa. However, there are still some issues related to the contributions of African nations to these global funds. How do you actually evaluate the situation? As I mean, Africa is the continent with the highest level of HIV/AIDS cases. However, African governments really put very few money on this. What's your take on that? Thank you.
Sorry, I would like to know if anyone has a specific question for the Executive Director of UNAIDS, because I believe he has another meeting about now. So if you have specific question, you have the floor, sir. Tell us where, which press you represent.
This is Muluna from CCTV. My question, it has been said that domestic funding is increased on HIV/AIDS and malaria, but can we say that the money that goes from the global fund was on decrease? I just want to clarify that. The other thing, are there any countries in the future that will be receiving higher amount of money for the coming years? Thank you.
The microphone. Quick.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Yared Gavramadan from Ethiopian News Agency. Okay. It is not for the Executive Director, but anyone, if you may answer my question. My question is, hopes are positive, but are there common commitment in all the countries in Africa? How do you measure their commitment? Are all committed to achieve these hopes? This is my question. You can give me your answer.
Michelle, we can.
No, I want just, if you didn't have chance to read this report just came for the 50 years, and is just trying to look at from where we came and how Africa has been able to turn around all issues on HIV and AIDS. Let me say few things. Today, we are not talking about any more conspiracy of silence. I remember a few years back, it was a huge problem. People were hiding themselves. People were not able to come with, and leaders were not convinced that HIV was even the problem. Today is not. We managed to really break the conspiracy of silence, which is very important. Secondly, I don't see today one single country in the continent who is saying we don't have AIDS. AIDS is not existing. And I don't see anymore this lack of continental vision. Today we have a continental vision. You heard of the roadmap, which is built around three major pillars. One is how we can start mobilizing internal resources and create a new mechanism for taking people who are sick, social insurance scheme and others, thinking out of the box. Two, how Africa can really start negotiating for knowledge transfer, building a knowledge economy, research and development, and also work with partners from the north, from emerging nations to start producing their own medicine. You heard me every single place saying that. But what I am saying to African leaders also, we don't need to produce medicine like we produced 30 years, 40 years back. Each of us with our small industry. That will not work. We need to really bring entrepreneurship. We need to bring competitiveness. We need to make sure that we work with the world advanced pharmaceutical firms also to bring quality so we can be part of the global market. And your point is so valid. Today, the market of the medicine, and I want to really mention that, the market of the medicine is almost $1.3 trillion. You know, Africa, part of the market is how? $6 billion. So Africa is not part of this game. And we need to come progressively, and we need to build that through a new type of partnership. So I want to thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Executive Director. Thank you very much, sir.
Answer the Angola question. The challenges in Angola are still very much in front of the leadership for HIV/AIDS. Our ability to understand where the virus is, how it moves in through transportation routes coming from the east, and also a northwest conduit going down in and through Namibia, has challenged us and the government to mount an effective response that mainly should focus on migrant truck drivers, movement of truck drivers, kind of men who are mobile with money, and commercial sex workers. The ability for the government to attach and tap the extractive resources that are now flooding the country, to siphon off a % of that to go directly into health support is where most of the discussion is now. It's a difficult discussion. There is a lot of unmet need unresponded to in Angola that the government is acutely aware of and are scrambling to develop a plan, an effective plan, to try to respond to it. So we are very active with the Angolan discussion right now. The Angolan Minister of Health is taking a leadership role in convening that discussion and taking better advantage of both Global Fund and PEPFAR resources to respond to it.
Do you foresee to increase the amount of money you provide to Angola?
I would be and have always been interested in talking to the Minister of Health and the President about their commitments to this effort, and we will remain a strong partner as their effort increases. We are committed.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Goosby. Any other comment? Well, I think, yes, now at least I have a lady. I'm sure the panelists will be more than happy to take. I believe this is going to be this last round of our questions.
I asked a question to Dr. So the question both of you asked, I think we've covered, which is how are Africans increasing their contributions, and we've gone through quite a bit how African leadership is present, how they are increasing their own domestic contribution, not just for HIV, but also for tuberculosis and malaria, and how they are actively, as President, as Prime Minister, as His Excellency the Prime Minister of Ethiopia said, as the President of Malawi said, that they are out actively advocating for increased resources for the Global Fund, while at the same time they're increasing their own contribution. So we are very excited about the prospect of achieving our goal of $15 billion for this replenishment cycle.
You have the floor, ma'am.
Thank you very much. I'm Emnet from a local magazine called Addis Standard. I know that the Global Fund has been back funding since September 2012. I just wanted to know if there are any new ways of funding from the past. Will there be any different ways to fund? Thank you.
So we've completely changed our funding model, and it's actually been at the instigation of the board, because we've learned so much has changed over the last 10 years. We're now in a position where we can really focus interventions to have a high impact and ultimately end these diseases as public health threats. So we've completely changed our entire grant-making, business-making proposition so that we're better partners to support national health strategies to achieve those objectives, but also to create a platform that can be used for broader health of individuals, which is what the national health strategies are looking for us to do. I think it's rather extraordinary that our board of directors, and we have one of our board members here, Dr. Goosby, Ambassador Goosby, and actually Ethiopia had provided a chair of the board during part of this time, and Africa has 2 seats on the board, actually drove this change to say, not that what we did in the past was wrong, but because things had evolved, and so we needed to evolve and change. There aren't a lot of institutions that change so dramatically and so radically to respond to the new reality on the ground. So we're very excited about this new approach that we think will better support the leadership in Africa to achieve their objectives, not only for HIV, TB, and malaria, but for health more broadly.
Thank you very much, sir. And I think we've come to the end of this press briefing, so that thank you all again for your presence, and a big thank you to all the panelists.